now I can see you on screen, but the side
Chair at this time of the Monterey County Planning Commission. The afternoon session only for the Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 meeting. We did not have a field trip this week, and I would like to start with a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Brassfield. First name, Chair Brassfield.
Mike Askew. Hasn't changed.
Vice Chair Freeman.
Present.
Mike Dawson.
Here.
Dan Fletcher.
Here.
Terry Latassa.
Here.
Stephen Milich.
Not.
Stephen, did you respond positively? I didn't hear you.
He was called away. No, I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we would do the consent, and the only thing I see on consent are the minutes. Anybody have any comments on the minutes?
This is Hanson Reed. Move to approve as submitted unless somebody has a comment.
Second.
Second by Sandy. Any comments? Then I make the motion. All in favor by roll call?
So Commissioner, I need to go ahead and go through the roll call vote. Chairman Brassfield.
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Yes.
Commissioner Latassa.
Yes.
Commissioner Milich.
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next, I'd like to open up for public comment. Do we have any sent in comments by the public?
Not yet, but Jennifer, can you go ahead and read the phone number and the dial-in number? And we'll wait about a minute because there's about a minute delay between it being televised on TV and the public call-in.
Could we use this opportunity while people are calling in to read the public notice on the meeting procedures?
Absolutely. That call-in number is 831-225-0330. Once again, that is 225-0330. You will need a conference ID to get into this specific group. That would be 192-7648. Once again, that conference ID is 192-7648, and that dial-in number is 225-0330. Thank you.
We have not received any call-in or telephone calls, so you could proceed with the next section of the agenda.
Thank you. I think we're on item number 3, which is the 787 Monterey Avenue approval for use permit on UP 200084 to allow a dormitory group. Could we have a staff presentation, please?
Thank you, Chair Brassfield. This is Chris Schmidt here. I'm a senior associate planner for the city, and I've been working with the applicant on this project. I will say it's really great to see all of you. It's been a while since I've had an item in front of the Planning Commission, so I'm glad that everyone's doing well and really appreciative to still be here and be able to work on great projects like this one. So I will turn it over to my presentation. Can everybody hear me okay? You can just nod if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear fine.
Okay. So yes, we're looking at a use permit approval request for a group residential use, which will be proposed a dormitory for the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. The staff recommendation is to approve the use permit. And I just wanted to give a little bit of background information about the Institute, which I will likely throughout the presentation refer to as MIS. And so here we see the current campus for MIS. They're undergoing some changes. So right now the campus is a bit fragmented. And on the next slide, you'll see what some of those changes are. So you can see here, they're going to close down some of these streets, build some new parking, new greenscapes, and really try to create a more cohesive campus. And that's part of their long-term plan. Moving forward, so I just wanted to give a couple of interesting facts about the Institute and Middlebury as an organization. So in Monterey, 20% of employment is shared among educational services, healthcare, and social assistance services. That's based on a 2018 broad-based assets inventory study that the city completed 2 years ago. And then in 2011, MIS produced more Fulbright scholars per capita than any other graduate school in the United States. The Fulbright scholarship program is an immersion program where basically students will go to other countries and be immersed in the different cultures, and that's something that's funded by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. And then in 2015, Foreign Policy magazine ranked MIS as number 21 in the measurement of top master's programs for a policy career in international relations. So it's an excellent institute, definitely an economic driver for our community, and we really want to support them. So just a little bit of background information about the site. It has a general plan designation of commercial and zoned C2ES, which is our community commercial district, with an emergency shelter overlay that would just enable or really just allow an emergency shelter to be developed. And you can see the site is a double fronting lot with 2 driveway entrances to the exterior parking lot on both Abrigo Street and Munris Avenue. There's also a garage entrance along Munris just down the street there. The site is 32,000 square feet in area and contains a 26,000 square foot existing commercial office building. I put this graphic together in GIS just to really show that this site is really downtown, centrally located, and within walking distance of a lot of different services nearby. So you can see the major downtown area, Alvarado Street, is about a quarter mile away. And the next slide, I'll show you where the MIS main campus is. There's open space, all sorts of different uses nearby. This was an image from Google Maps that I took just to show that the site is about a 10-minute walk away from the campus. It's about a 4-minute bike ride is what Google estimates as well. And again, that circle there is a quarter-mile radius. I also just wanted to show what a lot of the different surrounding zoning and land use is. So this slide shows the zoning. As you can see, it's really close, and you can see the project site right in the center there with the star. And it's very close to our mixed use areas, our commercial office area along Cass Street, which actually does contain some housing as well. Again, I highlighted open space both at Don Davy Park and kind of the Elistero Lake Park area. And then just, I don't think you can actually see it from this photo, but the Middlebury Institute is just up the street north of the corner of Jefferson and Pacific Street. Again, just showing the existing land uses. We have commercial, which includes office, service, retail, residential, down on the left-hand side. A couple of different hotel uses surrounding the site. Cypress Plaza, which is primarily different commercial uses, whether they're restaurants or other types of services. And they're all within walking distance, which just makes this site just really great for this type of use. So the project description. So yes, it's an existing 26,000 square foot office building that will be converted to a group residential use to be used as a dormitory by the Middlebury Institute. It's an existing 3-story building. The first floor is a 25 space garage. And then there are 39 exterior parking, as you saw on the aerial. And then the 2 floors above will be converted to residential dormitory floors with a mix of single bed, double bed, and triple bed rooms for a total of 89 beds. Each floor has 10 bathrooms and a common area, and then there's a kitchen for the entire dorm on the top floor. And you can see that on these floor plans. So I just wanted to again highlight there are 2 areas for parking. On the left hand and lower side is the garage, and I just wanted to highlight that there are the applicant has proposed 40 bicycle parking spaces, and you can see those highlighted in blue. And then the surface parking lot is displayed on the right. I just wanted to give a photo of the existing condition of the building. You can see the parking lot and almost see the garage entrance on the left-hand side. The applicant is proposing changes to the exterior of the building to accommodate for the new bedrooms, new windows, and then just facade improvements. And I think they've done a really, really lovely job in emulating some of the similar styles of classic architecture in Monterey. Obviously this design hasn't been approved. It would require an architectural review permit. But I think our staff is supportive of this design. I just did want to highlight, because staff did recommend a condition of approval regarding the existing waste enclosure. The guidelines recommend additional containers. So staff has included a recommendation to increase the size of this enclosure or increase the frequency of pickup with the service provider. And we will work with the applicant on making sure they implement that condition. So I wanted to go into the general plan policies that are relevant to this project, starting with the economic element. As I mentioned, 20% of employment in Monterey is amongst these 3 different uses. I don't know the specific number for educational institutions, but it's still a significant amount. So the first policy has to do with this city program to support major institutions within Monterey, and one of those institutions is the Institute. The next is support and promote educational and research institutions, encourage educational institutions and research facilities to locate in Monterey, encourage institutions and facilities promoting environmental and language-based education, and lastly, support existing and future research institutions. So this project would certainly support the overall expansion of MIS services, specifically to provide housing for students. Moving on to the social element and circulation element. The first program is to develop cooperative relationships with colleges and postgraduate schools to strengthen educational opportunities in the city. And the next goal is more of a city goal, but I think this project really aligns with it. And that is to promote a pedestrian and bicycle friendly environment, and the city has tried to create a friendly environment for these types of projects to come in, and that the residents and students could enjoy being able to walk our streets to whatever sort of services or stores or whatever they need. We've kept our city at a high level of attractiveness and safe streets that would support these types of uses. So in order for the Planning Commission to approve a use permit for this project, there are 3 findings. The first has to do with the consistency with the zoning ordinance. Specifically, the zoning ordinance's specific purposes to protect and promote public health, safety, and general welfare, implement the policies of our general plan, and then also one of the purposes of the commercial districts is to provide opportunities for residential development. The project is consistent with the zoning ordinance. Group residential use requires a CUP. The parking requirement is met. The applicant has provided additional parking for bicycles, and it implements these policies. The next finding, and I've broken it up into a couple different slides, again, is consistency with the general plan, and that the use will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in or adjacent to the neighborhood of such use, and that they will not be detrimental to properties or improvements in the vicinity or the general welfare of the city. The next, this slide actually just discusses, really just highlights those general plan policies. I'm not going to go through every single one. I think it's fairly obvious that supporting this project does all of those things. It supports the institute, it supports pedestrian environment, supports the economy of the city. Staff has recommended conditions of approval to limit any potential impacts that this use may cause, specifically having to do with trash enclosures, and I'll get onto that. The last finding is that the use will comply with any specific condition required. So yes, staff has recommended 2 conditions of approval. So any sort of parking or traffic related impacts when students are moving in, staff has recommended that the institute stagger those move-in dates. So, say we have 1/3 of the students move in on one day, and then the following day, the other, the next third, and then so on. And that's a common thing that many universities already practice. So I would hope that they've already, Middlebury as an established organization has already done this, I'm sure, with some of their dormitories. And then a condition regarding waste disposal, like I mentioned, expansion or increased service. And of course, those are the conditions. So just to reiterate, staff recommends approval of the use permit. I did have some comments that I think I sent to the Planning Commission before the hearing. I can certainly pull those up if you would like, but they were comments that supported this project from surrounding property owners and business owners. And with that, I'm available for questions. I think the applicant also has a presentation that they would like to show as well. And they can certainly answer any questions that I cannot. Thank you.
Any questions, Chris?
Yes, I have one question. I thought that the building was owned by the Christian Science Church, and I don't know who's the owner of the building.
I can go and show an aerial, but the Christian Science Church owns a property directly adjacent to this site.
Okay.
So the property owner is Rick Sagan and Chick Holly Family Trust, I believe.
Okay.
Any other questions of Chris?
Hi, Chris. This is Terry. I have a few questions. So how are they going to do they need water for this project from the Water Management District?
They have water for the project.
Okay. And I assume this project was noticed and posted.
Correct. Yes, I posted myself and I saw the notices.
Okay. And then do dormitory rooms count as housing, in terms of all these, low income and various other sort of housing issues that the city is dealing with?
So I'll go ahead and add to this. This is Kim Cole, Community Development Director. They do not count towards our regional housing needs allocation. The state of California does not count dormitory units. However, on a practical basis, we know that students have a housing need in our community, and this project really resolves a lot of the issues for Middlebury that we've been experiencing. So it won't count towards our RENA. We'll be talking about that later this evening, but it will provide housing for students.
Any other questions? Terry? Okay. Any other questions of the commission? I have a couple of questions. It mentions in the report that not every student is expected to use a parking space. Are there any planned use for those parking places if they're not occupied?
It's not something that we specifically discussed in terms of whether they were going to reserve spaces for any specific use. I would defer to the applicant.
Thank you. There's a couple other little things. At the end of term and at the beginning of terms, I appreciate that you're looking into that. But that's a whole lot of time where typically there's an awful lot of garbage. And I looked at the garbage plan and I just see one parking place with 2 dumpsters and it looks like 2 cans. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then in the near future, we're also supposed to be looking at separate containers for garbage from the kitchen?
Correct, yeah. Organic waste.
Well, I personally think that space is too small for 2 dumpsters and a minimum of the 2 cans. We're trying to get around the cans in the front to get at the dumpsters in particular. And there's one other type of garbage I assume is still an issue at these kind of campuses, and that is electronic garbage. Frequently, you will see in regular garbage a printer or a laptop because they died. Is there any mechanism being discussed about electronic garbage?
I don't know any current regulations or policies moving forward about electronic garbage. I'm sure that we could do some research and require maybe that it be posted where those types of things could be disposed.
Okay, I think we can ask the applicant. Is there any other questions by the commission before we turn it over to the applicant? Okay, is the applicant present and ready to make a presentation?
Yes, I am.
Appreciate it. Your name, please?
My name is Mike Thomas, and I'm the Vice President for Finance at Middlebury. And I will share screen. And I guess I would offer up, if anybody can't see my presentation, please let me know. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us in. I would like to say thanks to Chris and the entire planning staff for such a thorough presentation and their help throughout this process. With me today are Jeff Dayton Johnson, the Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Dean of the Institute, and John Hettinger, a partner at Kirchhoff Campus Properties. Kirchhoff is the developer we are using to help us design, help us with operations, as well as the overall administrative structure of the project. And what I thought might be helpful today is to give a brief background on some of the parts of Middlebury that you might not know about to help bring some context as to why this project is so important. Middlebury is really made of three main units: the college, which is in Middlebury, Vermont, the schools, which includes our language schools and schools abroad, and the institute here in Monterey. And as you may know, we've been looking for a long-term housing solution in Monterey for some time, and really feel that 787 Munris represents a unique opportunity for us to invest in the city, as well as address one of our biggest challenges that we have seen to date. So to jump into a little more detail on Middlebury, we have two campuses in Vermont. Our main campus is in the town of Middlebury in Vermont, and a breadloaf campus, which is in a town called Ripton, Vermont. And these pictures were taken on one of the 5 days it didn't snow, I think, in Vermont. But the college is a not-for-profit institution, similar to the institute, with academics that you would, majors that you'd find at most colleges. It was founded over 200 years ago, approximately 2,500 students at the Vermont campus, and we have a far-reaching student base, and highly regarded as a top liberal arts college. And this helps us attract really high-quality, engaged, academically focused students. We also have something we call the schools, which consists of our language schools, which is over 100 years old, where we offer 11 languages in an intensive learning environment for students, and these are mostly hosted in Vermont. We have a program focused on literature and English, where we offer a master's degree in English over the course of several summers. And finally, we have our schools abroad, which operate in 17 countries and has several hundred additional students, in addition to the ones that we have in California and Vermont. And for a quick overview of our institute and kind of the planned program that we would be using 787 Munris for, I will turn it over to Jeff Dayton Johnson.
Thanks, Mike, and good afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good. This is the most spoken sentence of our new reality. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? So you'll bear with me. I'm just checking. It's really great to see all of you, and we're really delighted and honored with your interest in this project, and are hoping to have your approval for this. So, you know, I'm here in Monterey. I'm the head of our Monterey campus. I know some of you, and I'm always delighted to talk about what we do in Monterey. We have about 700 students. It's principally a graduate professional school, as you know, with a real focus on international policy and management skills, as well as a lot of programs that have to do with languages, translation, interpreting, the field of language services and localization, which is important here in the local economy as well as around the world. We have research centers that focus on things like international security and the blue economy, which is the policy studies having to do with the ocean economy, something that I know is of great interest to the city and county of Monterey. Sea level rise, for example, something we work on, something you're interested in. So we find that this is a real natural partnership between the Institute here in Monterey and the other parts of Middlebury that Mike just described. Next slide, please, Mike. Thanks. So here's that same picture of 787 Munris, but with a little bit of background of why it is so exciting for us. As Mike mentioned, and has been discussed in Chris's presentation, housing for our students is a chronic source of anxiety for our students. They almost always find it. They're almost always satisfied with what they find, but it takes them longer. They end up paying more. And we worry, in fact, that it precludes some students from coming, particularly students from abroad who are not sure if they're going to be able to find housing here. So it's a long-standing concern, and this is the first really important solution that we've been able to bring to this program. Now, there's an additional detail here that may or may not seem important to you, but it's really important to us, which is that there's been increasing interest on the part of undergraduates at the college campus out in Vermont to spend a semester with us. Kind of like a study abroad semester, but it's a study away semester here in Monterey. And it allows them to have access to graduate courses, to professional education, which is a little different than the liberal arts education they're pursuing in Vermont. It allows them to pursue courses in areas that we have a strength in, international affairs, environment, languages, and the like. And it's even harder for students who come here for a semester to find housing than it is for a master's degree seeking student who comes here for a couple of years. It's harder to secure short-term housing like that. So having this kind of opportunity for providing housing for students is even more valuable if we can increase the circulation of students from New England in our Vermont campus out here to Monterey. So that on the academic side, this is the part that's most exciting to me, is that this will allow us to really leverage our academic areas of strength and develop special programs that are targeted to undergraduates at a really, really good college in Vermont. I described the study away logic of it, and I described the particular challenges that we face housing students who are coming here for less than a year or two. And we're hoping that this, in fact, will be additive, that this will add to the number of students who pursue studies at the Middlebury Institute, who contribute to the educational international flavor of the city that we try very hard to play a part in upholding. I think that's all we have about the academic program. What's the next? Oh no, there's more. Okay, there's more. Like many of you, I rely on the slides to tell me whether I'm done or not. So some of the things that we're working on, programs, just the details of the academics, we have underway a semester program for our undergraduates in international security. This is related to our program on the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Any of you ever read the news about what North Korea is doing, you'll usually find folks from our non-proliferation program being quoted to try to understand what's happening in North Korea or Iran or other countries where weapons of mass destruction are an issue. We're just designing now a California climate semester, which leverages not only our strength in environmental policy studies, but a lot of the partner institutions here in the Monterey Bay area who do research on marine issues and marine science to put together a really nice program on climate studies with a California flavor. We're designing programs in language careers that are related to some of our language programs that can meet the needs of undergraduates who are studying languages. And we're also just we're just starting out on a plan to have a program for data science that really looks at data in a new way for students who are studying any kind of major. And that will be a collaboration between our California and Vermont campuses. It's a mix of the graduate level courses that we have now, special courses which are designed for undergraduates, field work, and other kinds of opportunities to get people out of the classroom, get students out of the classroom and out into the real world in ways that only we here in Monterey can do. So we're very excited about this opportunity. I think it's really building on existing strengths and adding excellent new students to our student population and to the Monterey cultural life as well.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So to close and indicate why this particular project is so important, a lot of kind of summing up and reiterating what Chris and Jeff and I said earlier. First off is this location. It's going to allow students to be able to walk or bike to campus, restaurants, grocery stores. Everything is very easily accessible. The size of the building allows us to put the kind of robust program in a meaningful way. The available space makes it easy for parking. The bikes and the walking that we talked about is really key from a location perspective. And then one other thing I guess I'd like to mention is that the location from a little different angle as it relates to visitors and the proximity of hotels. If we have faculty visiting for seminars with the undergraduate students or parents on a parents' weekend and other visitors, really an excellent location for this project. So with that, I would just like to say thanks on behalf of Middlebury and our team, and to let you know that this is just a really exciting project for Middlebury, and we hope it's just as exciting for you. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions of the commission?
I do not have any questions of the commission.
Just one question. This is 90 students, right?
89, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a couple of questions, and it's basically the same ones as Chris. I see in your presentation and listen that you're going to look at this parking issue and maybe make some adjustments. So anybody that comes with a car would automatically get a parking place. Is that correct?
No, we will issue permits. If 89 students wanted to bring a car, we would not allow them all to bring a car. Very common in the undergraduate level to not allow cars on campus. But we have a couple of options there. One, we have parking back on the main campus, and we could issue permits for 787 such that people wouldn't be able to park if they didn't have a permit there. We don't anticipate that being an issue. We generally run about 50 to 60% of students have cars. So we don't believe it will be an issue, but we do have options at our disposal around permitting as well as parking up on the main campus.
But up until now, you haven't had people live there and park there?
We do not have any residents at the California campus.
So this is a new area.
Yes.
Okay. Second issue. Now, I think you probably heard my comments about the trash. When you start bringing in college students, they have probably pretty good habits on sorting garbage, but they frequently get a lot. And I just look at your plan here, and it just seems kind of narrowed for everybody to have access to all the different dumpsters. Has that been addressed, or are you going to make it wider, bigger?
I may defer to John if he is still on the phone on sizing of the trash area.
Absolutely. I would just say that we are thrilled to continue working with Chris and Kim and Andy in whatever they recommend to appropriately address that issue, as well as the authority, either by an expanded trash area or by increased frequency of pickups. And whatever signage is appropriate to divert the right trash going into the right place, as discussed earlier.
And to supplement that, Chair Brassfield, this is Kim Cole. We have added a condition of approval based on an analysis of Monterey City Disposal and our solid waste coordinator, Ted Tarasis, who looked at the size of the facility. He's recommending some changes, and that's a condition of approval. In addition, Mr. Tarasis is in charge of enforcement. If we find that it's inadequate, then the property owner is required to increase the frequency of pickup. So maybe from once a week, our commercial establishments, our restaurants get trash pickup every day of the week. So there are options available to us if we start to see spillover. We don't anticipate that by the increased size of the trash enclosure that we are recommending.
Thank you. I've watched campuses at the time when people leave campus and come, and the piles of garbage that pile up. And I'm sure that we see that in other places, but I just wanted to make sure it was covered here. I saw that you really are encouraging bicycles, but I'm now seeing a fair percentage of electric bicycles included in that population. Is there going to be a capability for them to charge the bicycle in that area, or do they have to take them back to their rooms?
At this point, we have not contemplated any bicycle charging per se, but it's something that we could look at if the feedback from the Middlebury Institute was such that the school, the students or the residents at the property had a high prevalence of those.
I do appreciate that. My last question is, a lot of institutions already have a process on campus to eliminate electronic trash. Does Middlebury?
Yes, for our undergraduate is where we have residents now. So yes, we have a robust kind of recycling program for electronics, organic, plastics, and cardboard and food waste are all separated. It's taken pretty seriously. We have environmental studies programs that definitely consult on the best way to handle that. So we like to think of ourselves as a leader in that area overall, but definitely we'll make sure that we are following law as well as probably exceeding kind of the compliance requirements.
Actually, from your expressions today, I thought that might be the case, but I just wanted to make sure it was covered. Any other questions before we open it up? Bring it back to the commission. Any comments?
We have to go out to public comment.
I beg your pardon, I forgot.
No problem.
I don't see anybody, so it's a little harder. Any public comments?
There are none yet, but I'll go ahead and repeat for the audience. It's also shown on your screen. We encourage you to call 831-225-0330. There is a PIN number required, 1927648. Once again, that phone number is 1-831-225-0330. The PIN number is 1927648. If we can just wait a minute.
We appreciate public calls and comments.
So that's been about 30 seconds. I don't see any calls yet. I'll just repeat it one more time. 1-831-225-0330.
And if you let us know if they come in, I'll bring it back for comments.
Absolutely.
By the commission.
Nobody's
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
I absolutely love this project. I like the adaptive reuse of this building from a use office, which is not in demand and not likely to be in demand in the future, to this group residential. And we know from an earlier presentation of MIS's presentation on their master plan, the significant need for housing that they had. And, you know, I just think this is such a win-win project. I love the fact of the proximity it has to downtown and the school itself. I'm totally in favor of this, and I'm going to support the approval.
Hanson?
Yeah, so this is Hanson. Yeah, I mean, Dan said it all. I mean, I think it's a great project. I think that it will add some vibrancy to that part of town that is, that's just on the edge of downtown, but it will add a lot of vibrancy, people walking back and forth, students shopping, Trader Joe's is right there, there's restaurants. I think it'll be phenomenal to add that around and bring, it's just great. And then I finally got the email from Chris, it was in my spam. And you know, the property owner that just purchased the little center that's right next to it strongly supports this as well. So I think that's great. So I highly support it as well.
I want to add to that by saying that it's great for the school to have such a large building that is solely dedicated to its students, because it would promote some cohesiveness among that group of students living together. When you have a reach out and grab any kind of rental that you can get in a town, sometimes that works and sometimes it's hit and miss. But this is one building for 90 students. It's going to be great, I think, for the school as well as the community.
Mike, any comments?
No, thank you very much. Excellent feedback on the electric bikes, and I'll definitely take that.
I'm sorry, Mike.
For another one.
Oh.
And that would be me. My name is Michael Thomas Dawson, so there you go. So you were close. I'm just really pleased that Middlebury has gotten a dorm going, because it's in the past it's been really, really tough for the kids to find rentals. And you know, I didn't have any problems at school, but I'm sure that these kids will have a real problem finding rentals the way things are today. But to have a big dorm that they can automatically get into, that's a great deal.
Thanks, Mike. Steve?
I wish we had more projects like this.
Thank you. Very distinct. And we haven't heard from Terry yet.
I'm in agreement with what's said. It's a great project. I like the architectural drawings they had sort of started on, and really is I mean, so much of what we hear from the public these days is about housing, and this is 89 kids that will have a place to go. It seems like it really is a win-win. So I'm in support of it. Thank you. My comments are pretty brief. First of all, over 10% of your student body will be living in your own housing. How can we beat that? Because that'll free up that same number for other people. So I appreciate what the Institute is doing here. And I just ditto everybody else's comment. I support this as well. Having said that, do I have a motion? This is Terry. I'll make a motion to approve the project as submitted.
And make the finding.
Per the staff report.
Okay.
And second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, Dan, second. Any comments? I would just like to suggest that we make sure that in the use permit, the issues of the trash and the bikes and electronics are covered. And so that's all the comment I have.
I will go ahead and go for the roll call vote.
If you would.
Before we do that, can I get the complete motion one more time? Sorry.
Sure. This is Terry. I hope this is complete enough. My motion is to approve the project as submitted per the staff report findings and conditions.
And the second was Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go ahead with the vote.
Chair Brassfield,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Latassa,
Yes.
Commissioner Milich,
You betcha. That's a yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Hi.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the fourth.
Is this appealable?
Oh, it is appealable within 10 days. I believe this is not a cell tower. We still have a 10-day.
That is correct.
Thank you. Next one is consider 603-605 Hoffman Avenue application for historic zoning. We have a staff presentation, please.
Yes. Hi, Chair Brassfield and Commissioners. I'm going to share my screen right now.
Your name, please, Christy?
Yes. I'm Christy Sabdo, Associate Planner with the City of Monterey. I'll be presenting the proposed historic rezone request for 603-605 Hoffman. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution that recommends the City Council adopt an ordinance rezoning the property from R35 to R35H2. The property is located at the corner of Hoffman Avenue and Belden Avenue, or Belden Street, excuse me. The zoning designation is R35, and the general plan land use designation is medium density residential. An intensive survey was prepared by architectural historian Kent Seavey, which concludes that the residence was constructed circa 1900 as a one-story wood-framed Queen Anne cottage-style residence. The home style is consistent with the 1900 to 1916 period of significance, with the theme of early expansion of New Monterey, found in the New Monterey Historic Context Statement. The house was moved to this site sometime around 1926. The original location of the house may have been the Oak Grove neighborhood. The architectural historian was unsure, so we're not absolutely sure about that, but it was definitely moved. On September 12th, 2019, the Historic Planning Commission recommended the city adopt an ordinance rezoning the property from R35 to R35H2 historic zoning. Here are some photos along the frontage of Hoffman. The character defining features of the residence include being irregular in plan, a complex intersecting roof system that is gable on hip with a small lower projecting bay on the southwest side of the facade, a raised open porch with original Queen Anne stick work detailing on the entry porch. The front porch has been rehabilitated to its 1927 appearance after the original base of the porch fell apart from decay. There's a secondary raised porch on the Belbin Street side. The exterior wall cladding is 1950s horizontal aluminum siding covering the original 1900 wood cladding beneath. Fenestration includes a combination of single fixed, double hung aluminum windows. The inappropriate aluminum siding and aluminum windows were added in the 1950s when the house was converted from a single family residence to a duplex. And here are photos of the rear of the residence. The residence is significant at the local level under California Criterion 3 in the area of architecture, as an example of the Queen Anne cottage design of early Monterey contractor Douglas Knox Fraser. Home is consistent with the 1900 to 1916 period of significance within the theme of early expansion of New Monterey. The residence embodies the unique aesthetic of early Monterey building contractor designer Douglas Knox Fraser. He was a significant building contractor who drew his own plans. In 1890, he was hired to design and build speculative housing in Monterey's new Oak Grove subdivision adjacent to Hotel Del Monte. So although the house is missing the majority of the original Queen Anne style fenestration and has inappropriate 1950s aluminum siding, the intensive survey concludes this is reversible. The property retains sufficient integrity and most of the character defining features of Fraser's work. The proposed treatment plan, as recommended by historian Kent Seavey in the intensive survey, will bring the proposed property closer to its original 1900 to 1960 design. The aluminum siding will be removed, the aluminum windows will be restored to wooden windows, and the original wood siding will be repaired and painted. The property meets the eligibility requirements for the H2 overlay zoning, and that the property has been identified by a qualified architectural historian to be a significant local historic resource. A Mills Act maintenance schedule has also been provided. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution that recommends the City Council adopt an ordinance rezoning the property from R35 to R35H2. And we have applicant Susan Silva on the line, as well as architectural historian Kent Seavey, if you have any questions for them. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, this is Terry Latassa. Thanks, Christy.
Sure.
So I see the treatment plan requires them to remove the aluminum siding and replace the aluminum windows with wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that, we wouldn't have to do a condition. That's pretty much conditioned by the treatment plan.
Well, I think it wouldn't hurt to have a condition. They're saying that they are going to do it, but it might not hurt to have a condition to make sure that happens.
Okay. You didn't include a suggested, I didn't see any language or any conditions on the staff report.
Yeah, I didn't. I guess I was hoping that the Planning Commission thought it was important that they would add a condition.
Okay. Thank you. That's
Sure.
all I have.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, just if it's not a condition, it's not enforceable. So it's necessary to have a condition to make it enforceable.
We can do that, can't we, during discussion?
Sure. We can make a motion
Yeah.
and add it, sure.
Any other questions or comments before? And I'd like to see if the applicant would like to make a presentation.
So Chair Brassfield, we have, I believe, the applicant on the phone, or it might be a public comment, but I believe they're on the phone. So I'll go ahead and unmute them now. Will the caller with the last digit 0603?
They're on the phone. And unmute them now. Curious. Will the caller with the last digit 0603?
Back.
Okay.
So the caller is going into the other room. If they're in the room with the TV, there's feedback. So it'll be just a moment.
Okay. For next.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just outside.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just outside. Okay, this is Susanna de Fatima Silva, owner of the 603-605 Hoffman building. I'm here with Kent Stevie.
Hi, how are you? You
Good.
guys are interesting. You voice over each other.
So you can go ahead and provide your public comment to the Planning Commission, or were you just going to respond to questions?
Respond to questions.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions of the commission?
Do you have any questions?
Not at this point. I think we've covered this quite well, and your staff is excellent and has done their job. So we're simply, interested in finding out what you're interested in.
Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions, Kent, and so I'll go ahead and mute you now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. One moment.
I guess I do have a question of Kent. So this is Terry Latassa. Hi, Kent.
Yes, Terry.
So it looks like this house has a corner, like a garage that's at a 45-degree angle that's on the corner.
That's correct.
That's kind of, yeah, that's an unusual feature. Does that mean it was probably moved from another corner location?
Yes, it was. If you read the DCR, it was moved to that location sometime probably around 1926.
Right. Okay. That's all. That was a softball question for you. So thank you.
Okay. Any public?
Talk for an hour and a half.
Any other public comment?
There is no other public comment, and I will go ahead and repeat the phone number. If another call comes in, I'll let you know. The phone number is 1-831-225-0330, and the conference ID is 192-7648. And I don't see anyone calling in at this time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Kim. Okay, any comments from the commission?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think that we should, if we're going to add conditions to the resolution to approve, we should agree on what ones are important to us. And in reading the Historic Preservation Commission concerns that were attached to the agenda report today, they were most concerned about replacing the aluminum siding, i.e. removing the aluminum siding and exposing the redwood siding. Number two, remove and replace the aluminum framed windows with wood frame windows, and I believe replace the doors, either the front door or the front and back door. And I just want to confirm that those are the three things that we want to put in as the condition of approval. There may be more that other people noticed, but those were the three I noticed.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I do have a couple comments. Mike Dawson, as some of you know, I live in a historic house. I know that Kent knows that. But anyway, when you start digging around doing stuff with a historic house, with an old house, you're going to find issues. like around this house, it's what the hell were they thinking? That's what we say. And so they will have some issues. And what I'm interested in is some guarantee that we're going to end up with a historic building when we're done. And we're not gonna just sort of gloss over the stuff, the issues that they find. And I'd really like some kind of guarantee, like if on final inspection that they've ruined some of the historicity of it, that we can pull back the H2 designation.
So I think this is Kim Cole, Community Development Director. There's a couple things happening here. They're applying for a Mills Act program, so we can incorporate these conditions of approval about the vinyl siding removal and the changes that both the Planning Commission and HPC would like, and we can have that embedded within that Mills Act contract. So that provides a contractual requirement between the city and the property owner. Number two, the Historic Preservation Commission is required under our zoning code to approve a historic preservation report for any modifications to the property. So they will approve that along with any proposed plan changes. And they will have to adhere by that project approval when they go through towards construction. So I have a high level of confidence that the property will continue to retain its historic significance through that process. If it doesn't, the city has options to cancel the Mills Act contract.
Typically, Kim, how long does this hold open to finish these modifications?
So it depends. We've had Mills Act contracts that have gone on, with a major rehabilitation project, and the rehabilitation, just takes a year to 2 years to finish. I mean, if they're redoing the whole structure. And then other case, it's really maintenance. We have to paint a window. So we've experienced the full gamut of historic restorations in the city of Monterey. And if we gave you a slideshow, I think overall we've done a good job.
Do you have a recommendation on a period of time to accomplish this?
I see that the applicants are still on the phone. That's something I would probably like to ask them, is what is their proposed construction schedule, and to see if that's reasonable in terms of what you would be thinking or recommending.
Thank you.
They're still on the phone, so I can unmute them and hopefully they can hear me, if that's your discretion.
That would be really great.
Can the applicant and Kent CV hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Kent, did you hear the question?
It's on your schedule.
It's on the schedule?
Yes, and I think it's on your schedule.
It could be.
It is.
Christy, do you recall the Mills Act contract term for the siding and the replacement of the vinyl windows?
I have a copy of the schedule, the Mills Act schedule. I can pull it up.
Thank you.
Done 6 months to a year.
Oh, they wanted the done right away.
They wanted it over a 10-year period.
No, but the siding, in order to qualify.
Oh, yeah.
Siding, the windows and doors.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. A year.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 months goes like kind of quick.
Well.
So, and just so you know, the Planning Commission can hear you. You're unmuted.
Every word.
We're talking probably for the exterior wall cladding, 6 months to a year, depending upon the municipal process.
Okay.
So
and it
can
does
you see
show
this?
that. Thank you, Kent.
Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Okay, any other comments? Then I'll ask for
This is
more.
Terry Latassa. I don't know if anybody saw the movie Tin Men with Danny DeVito, about a bunch of guys in their Cadillacs driving around strong-arming homeowners into putting aluminum siding on their houses, and they were very successful. And this looks like the result of some. I think that's what happened. People thought it was an upgrade back in the 50s, and there was a lot of aluminum siding that was installed over beautiful redwood. So I agree with Mr. Dawson that there could be all kinds of dry rot and other problems, but the only way they'll ever get at it is to remove that aluminum. I think that's critical, and it's. I'll make a motion to approve the project with the added condition that the aluminum siding be removed, that the aluminum windows be replaced with wood sash windows. And I believe Sandy mentioned there was something else about the doors also, the exterior doors be replaced with appropriate wood doors.
How about a timeline?
Well, I think the contract itself spells out the timeline, and they're obliged to a 10-year period on the contract with, you can see it's on the screen right now, a schedule of maintenance and repair. So
Okay.
I don't think that should be an added condition.
Okay, so do we have a second?
Second, that's Mike Dawson, second.
Mike Dawson seconds. And any discussion? Okay, then I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Thank you very much. Chair Brassfield,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Latassa,
Yes.
Commissioner Milich,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. You have, anybody that need to has 10 days to appeal it to the city council?
No. It's a recommendation to the council.
Oh, this is the recommendation. So it is a recommendation to the city.
Right.
But, okay, Kim, I have one question on the process. In the past, you've mentioned that there's been some issues with the Mills houses and the city's participation in its responsibilities. Is that still an issue?
It is. And we are in the process of finalizing a historic preservation ordinance where we would look at trying to resolve that issue. So the issue is we've had inadequate staffing levels to go out and to monitor the properties. That continues to exist. One of the options we were looking at in the new ordinance that has yet to be reviewed by the Historic Preservation Commission is establishing a process where they would, all the property owners would deposit a specific amount of money so we could hire somebody or do something to be able to bring for the inspections to occur. So we have yet to resolve that issue.
Okay, just so we understand that the schedule's a schedule, but staffing issues are still staffing issues, so appreciate it. That concludes this project. I believe, Kim, we got some staff issues coming up.
Actually, the next agenda item is a presentation on the general plan annual report, and I'm happy to present that.
Good.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. It's my pleasure to present the general plan annual report to you. And I just want to highlight some general plan accomplishments, and they're really things you can see or projects that have been approved that are consistent with our general plan. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but within the last year, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Education Center opened, which supports the city's goal to support its educational partners, which are a key foundation of our economy. Middlebury, the city of Monterey approved an easement so Pierce Street could be closed. And in fact, the construction documents have been submitted and we are working with them on their final permits. And because this is a report from last year, I just indicated we were working on student housing. You've actually fulfilled that tonight by approving a student housing project for Middlebury. The fishing industry is also a key economic partner in the city of Monterey, and our city council has expended a considerable amount of energy in the last year working on Wharf 2 leases, and we're close to having the entire building on Wharf 2 leased. And we're very excited about that because it provides long-term fiscal and operational security to our fishing partners. I mentioned this before, but the city of Monterey applied for a grant from the Office of Economic, it's OEA, I'm getting the A, but it's basically with the federal government. And we're working with our military partners on hiring a consultant to look at a compatible use plan for all of the military facilities within the county of Monterey. So not just all of the facilities in the city of Monterey or on the peninsula, but all the way through Monterey County. And it's a really exciting project. We received about $650,000 in grant funds. And we had a meeting this past week where we interviewed potential consultants, and we have a multidisciplinary team with partners from the county and all different groups of people where we'll be working on this compatible use study. And that'll take about a year and a half when we get started. There are a lot of other general plan accomplishments. In terms of housing production, probably the most significant change the city has made was that the Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council rezoned Garden Road to allow housing, basically between Garden Road and Highway 68, with a maximum of 400 units. We are seeing projects coming forward in that area, and I'll be able to share those with you in just a little bit. Our general plan also places a significant emphasis on energy conservation, and we have had tremendous success as a city. I think you're aware of that the city of Monterey entered a joint powers association to create Monterey Bay Community Power. It's been tremendously successful, and it has allowed alternative energy or renewable sources to be the energy supply for both our commercial and residential uses. Through that program, there are energy conservation grants and various programs available, and we're just seeing that continue to expand. So that's been a tremendous success in terms of energy conservation. Sprinkled throughout our general plan was a goal to preserve the old Capitol site for open space. The city concluded about 2 years of negotiations, and the Pebble Beach Company gifted the old Capitol site to the city of Monterey. And so our residents can be assured that the hillsides forming the backdrop for the city will continue to be preserved as open space. So we're very excited that that goal that was established originally by our council in about the 1980s was finally fulfilled in 2020 or 2019. In terms of historic preservation, the city of Monterey is a certified local government. You met Chris Schmidt this afternoon. Chris applied for a grant. The city of Monterey secured that grant to prepare the Alta Mesa Historic Survey. And we've been going neighborhood by neighborhood to update our historic surveys. And so the city council approved that survey just right at the end of 2019. So we've had a lot of different accomplishments in different areas of the general plan. We also have some really significant challenges, and I think the most significant challenge is it's fairly clear to me that the city most likely will not meet its regional housing needs goals that need to be building permits issued by 2023. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about that, the housing production to date. I think it's important to realize that the state of California has just strengthened its reporting requirements, and they only allow you to report those units where building permits have been issued during the year. They do not allow us to take credit for projects that maybe the Planning Commission has approved, but they haven't yet prepared the construction drawings and submitted for building permit. So last year, just to give you an idea on that number, the city of Monterey approved 110 new housing units and conversion of buildings and different projects. But we only get credit for the 87 projects where building permits have been pulled between 2015 and I should have updated that through 2019. And so what you see in this chart is our target that was assigned to the city of Monterey was 650 housing units. We've issued permits for 87. We have a substantial RHNA goal of 563 housing units. So how do we close the gap? It is abundantly clear to me that this city of Monterey needs a water supply. We are pursuing at the city manager level. We're asking for an immediate negotiated settlement regarding the cease and desist order regarding condition number 2. And that is if there are water credits on a site and a water meter, that conversion of use will be allowed. And so we're pursuing that. So today, all sites must have existing water meters and adequate water credits. We can't set a new water meter in the city of Monterey, and there's really no water available for allocation. So what are some of the projects that are being submitted in the near future? This was a project approved by a planning commission last year, and I think the architect is about done with the construction drawings. It's 2200 North Fremont, the old Eddy site. We're looking at about 40 dwelling units with 8 affordable units. The City Council recently approved the conversion of 300 Cannery Row to a mixed-use project with ground floor retail and coastal serving uses, and the upper floors having 8 dwelling units. The affordable housing will be off-site as shown in the graphic on the right. This building's continuing to evolve. It actually doesn't look anything like this right now, but 591 East Franklin, sort of across from the old Trinity High School. It's currently, it has an auto repair business that sort of flows out into the street and the surrounding area. And so the city council had a little bit of water left for a project, and the city distributed a request for proposals. There was a very rigorous competitive process, and ultimately there will be a future development at 591 East Franklin. I also want to point out another very proactive measure that the Planning Commission and the City Council have taken is flexibility and density in the East Downtown area. So instead of each site having to meet 30 dwelling units per acre, we took that total and said, if you can get a little bit more on one site, it's okay to flex that as long as we don't exceed the density plan for that whole area. So that's providing some flexibility, and we're seeing this project come forward. Garden Road is the most exciting potential change. What you see here in the white dashed line is the Garden Road area that was rezoned for 400 units in total. And the yellow stars represent projects that we currently have applications and are working on them. It's very important to point out that these projects will not require use permits, but they require robust architectural review, and that's what we're currently working on. So what this slide shows is with these really interesting projects on Garden Road, the one on Del Monte, there's a couple more on East Franklin and Lighthouse. With the amount of water credits afforded to those properties, we can look at about 110 dwelling units, which is significant for the city of Monterey if we could actually get those in construction prior to 2023. Unfortunately, we had been trying to get an additional allotment from the water district. They have some water in reserve, 9 acre feet. There was a meeting last week by the Water Demand Committee where we were presenting to them that we could increase our affordable housing construction and housing construction from 110 units to 302 units with some additional water. Unfortunately, the Water Demand Committee denied that request, but we wanted to go on record to show the difference that water makes. We're not meeting our maximum densities on site, and that all has to do with water. So just to sum up, we have 563 units we'll need to construct to meet our arena goals. Even in the pipeline, on an optimistic view, I'm looking at about 110 that we haven't previously accounted for. I do need to emphasize again, and it's written throughout our general plan, in order to build housing, we need a sustainable, reliable water supply, and we need the cease and desist order to be lifted. So I hope that continues to be foremost in our minds as we work on trying to meet our affordable housing goals. So with that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Kim?
Yeah,
let me
Mr. Chair,
just
this is Terry Latassa. Thanks, Kim. So you mentioned, so the RHNA requirement has to be done by 2023. Is that, how does
so
that
we
work?
get a new regional housing needs allocation about every 8 years. And so our housing element is updated much more frequently than the other elements of our general plan by state law. It's a requirement. So we will get a new housing allocation in 2023. What we are seeing from the state is there are going to be, and I think we can foresee this in the near future, I don't want to call them penalties, but direction if you are not meeting your regional housing needs. So as that continues to evolve, we'll be sharing that with you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? First of all, I appreciate your presentation. That's one of the questions type that I get from the public is, why aren't we doing it? I keep saying water, water, water. So I do appreciate the update. And that's a qualifier on any report that goes back to the state, isn't that correct?
It is. We continue to emphasize it, that this is, a significant constraint. I expect that if we don't solve it by 2023, it'll continue to be the major issue in our housing element.
So thank you very much. And thank you for keeping me on track. The last one is commissioner's comments.
This is Hansen. This seems to be working much more smoothly as I think we are on meeting 4 or 5 on this. And it's nice to see that everybody's kind of getting the swing of it and, the handling, and it's actually very convenient. I know it's nice to see everybody in person and actually have physical meetings, but it's convenient to sit in the office and work. So thanks. That's it.
Thank you, Hansen. Any other comments?
Yeah, this is Terry. I don't know if anybody read the Coast Weekly from last Thursday, but there was an editorial in there by Zeev Bradley, their publisher, and he was talking about sort of a virus crisis notion of pedestrian streets temporarily being created to try to accommodate restaurant seating. Restaurants are going to be really struggling in the future. And I'm not sure, I should have reread it again, but basically he was suggesting that a street like Alvarado Street could temporarily be turned into a pedestrian mall with the typical, service deliveries at night and that sort of thing. So obviously trucks and cars are occasionally permitted on the street, but that the restaurants are allowed to put seating outside with heaters to try to alleviate this crunch inside, because I think also the way the virus science is turning out is the worst thing for exposure is being in an enclosed space with a bunch of other people. And I was wondering maybe if we could ask staff to at least look at this and bringing it back to us as something that we could talk about at the next meeting. Because if that were, I know there are a lot of problems like bathrooms. How do you handle that? You know, it wouldn't be just a simple, you know, there you go, kind of a temporary zoning change, but it's a possibility that I think might be worth studying.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
Terry.
read the same article, and I had the same thought that you had, Terry. I would ask that it be referred to the city attorney, because if you're going to close down a public street for even any length of time, you really need permission from the legislature. So I would think that, you know, when it's referred to staff, that it definitely be referred to the city attorney also. But I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I was thinking about other streets in the city with restaurants that might be amenable to temporary pedestrian malls. You know, they're probably there, but I don't know what they are. I couldn't. I mean, Alvarado Street is so obvious. So that's all.
Yeah, we should shut down Lighthouse.
Well, Alvarado also closes down one day a week for the vegetable.
Tuesday, yeah.
So it might be a way to utilize some of those that space. So I appreciate that. Any other comments? Haven't heard from all the people yet. Well, I think it was a productive meeting, and I appreciate everybody. And I think if I can do it, I'll call at 5:57. I will close this meeting. Thank you. Appreciate it, Kim.
Thank you, Mike.